Today, we are embarking on an incredible journey through time, not just decades or centuries, but tens of thousands of years into humanity's deep past. We are going to explore one of the most fundamental transformations in human history, the shift from hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural communities. Before we dive in, I want you to think about this mind-blowing fact. Human societies lived as hunter-gatherers for more than 99% of their existence on Earth. That's right, for the vast majority of human history, our ancestors survived by hunting animals and gathering wild plants, fruits, and roots. Now, you might be wondering, how do we possibly know what happened tens of thousands of years ago when there was no writing, no recorded history? This is where archaeology becomes absolutely fascinating. Archaeologists are like detectives of the deep past, and they study several types of evidence to reconstruct hunter-gatherer life. Stone tools are perhaps our primary evidence, because stone survives for millennia. The shapes, techniques used to make them, and the types of stone tell us about technology, daily activities, and even trade relationships. Animal remains are equally important. Bones found at archaeological sites reveal what animals people hunted and ate. The age and species of these animals help us understand hunting strategies and environmental conditions of the time. Perhaps the most exciting evidence comes from rock art. Cave paintings and rock carvings show us scenes of hunting, social activities, and even spiritual beliefs. These ancient artworks give us a window into the minds and lives of our ancestors. Plant remains, though rare because they decay easily, provide crucial insights when preserved. Seeds and pollen help us understand what people gathered and how they used plants for food, medicine, and other purposes. The terminologies like Paleoliths and Mesoliths might seem complex, but don't worry. We'll break this down simply as we go through each period. Let's start our journey in the Paleolithic Age, which began about 2 million years ago during the Pleistocene period, also known as the Great Ice Age. Imagine a world where ice covered much of Earth's surface, and our early ancestors were developing the first sophisticated stone tools. The Paleolithic period shows us the gradual development of human technology through three distinct phases. The Lower Paleolithic period introduced us to some of humanity's first standardized tools. Hand axes are perhaps the most iconic of these prehistoric implements. Picture a teardrop-shaped stone tool, broader at one end and narrower at the working end. These versatile tools were used for cutting, digging, and processing food. Alongside hand axes, early humans created cleavers, which had sharp transverse edges perfect for splitting wood and processing large game. They also developed choppers and chopping tools, which were heavy-duty implements for breaking bones to access nutritious marrow and processing tough plant materials. As we move into the Middle Paleolithic period, we see a focus on flake tools, pieces of stone struck off from larger cores with incredible precision. This technology shows remarkable advancement in understanding stone properties and tool-making techniques. The Upper Paleolithic brought even more specialized tools into the human toolkit. Burins were developed for engraving and detailed work, while scrapers became essential for processing animal hides and preparing them for clothing and shelter. In the Indian subcontinent, Paleolithic sites are found across diverse landscapes, each telling us something unique about how early humans adapted to different environments. Let's start with northern India, where the Kashmir Valley and Potwar region in present-day Pakistan have yielded numerous hand axes and choppers. However, fewer tools are found in Kashmir due to the intensely cold glacial conditions that made human habitation challenging during much of the Paleolithic period. Moving to western India, we find that the Luni River complex in Rajasthan, along with the Sabarmati and Mahi rivers in Gujarat, are incredibly rich in Paleolithic artifacts. The famous Bhimbetka caves near Bhopal contain not only stone tools but also spectacular rock art that gives us insights into both the technology and spiritual life of Paleolithic peoples. Central India, particularly the Narmada River terraces, represents one of the richest Paleolithic regions in the subcontinent. The Narmada Valley has produced thousands of hand axes and cleavers, showing intensive occupation over long periods. The distribution of tools along river terraces tells us about changing water levels and how humans adapted to environmental shifts. Eastern India also shows significant Paleolithic occupation, with rivers like the Damodar and Suvarnarekha in the regions of present-day Jharkhand and Odisha yielding substantial Paleolithic assemblages. These sites show how early humans successfully colonized diverse ecological zones. Finally, southern India presents us with extensive Paleolithic evidence along the Krishna, Godavari, and Kaveri river systems. These sites have produced numerous tools representing both early and middle Paleolithic traditions, demonstrating the long continuity of human occupation in the peninsula. Understanding Paleolithic subsistence patterns reveals the remarkable adaptability of early humans. When it came to hunting, Paleolithic people pursued a remarkable variety of animals including elephants, rhinoceros, deer, wild boar, bison, and various bird species. What's particularly fascinating is that there's no evidence of selective hunting. They seem to have hunted whatever was available and abundant in their immediate area. While hunting often captures our imagination, plant foods formed a crucial part of the Paleolithic diet. Though we have limited evidence due to preservation issues, Paleolithic people certainly gathered fruits, roots, seeds, honey, and other plant foods. Among modern hunter-gatherers, gathered plant foods often provide more calories than hunted meat, and this was likely true for our Paleolithic ancestors as well. The rock paintings at Bhimbetka provide remarkable insights into Paleolithic social organization. These ancient artworks show scenes of group hunting, suggesting these people lived in small cooperative bands that worked together for survival. The earliest paintings from the Upper Paleolithic period show large animals painted in green and dark red colors, with some measuring an impressive 2 to 3 meters in length. Around 8000 BCE, the world was undergoing dramatic changes. The Ice Age was ending, global temperatures were rising, and this climate transformation fundamentally altered how humans lived. This ushered in what we call the Mesolithic Age, a period of transition that bridges the gap between the old hunter-gatherer ways and the agricultural revolution that was to come. The most striking change during the Mesolithic was the development of microliths technology. Mesolithic people created tiny stone tools ranging from just 1 to 8 centimeters in length. These might seem less impressive than the large hand axes of the Paleolithic, but they actually represent a significant technological leap forward. Let me explain the different types of microliths that became central to Mesolithic life. Blades were long, narrow flakes used for cutting tasks, while points were triangular tools that served as arrowheads and spearheads for hunting. Lunates, with their distinctive crescent shape, could be combined with other elements to form composite arrows and spears. Trapezes were versatile multi-purpose tools with several carefully retouched edges for different functions. The Indian subcontinent provides some of the world's best evidence for Mesolithic cultures. In Rajasthan, the site of Tilwara demonstrates a clear cultural sequence from Mesolithic times through to later periods, giving us insights into long-term cultural development. Bagor, located on the Kothari River, stands out as India's largest Mesolithic site, with 3 distinct cultural phases spanning an impressive period from 5000 to 2000 BCE. Gujarat has contributed significantly to our understanding of Mesolithic life through sites like Langnaj, which has been extensively studied by archaeologists. This site reveals 3 distinct cultural phases with abundant microliths, human burials, and well-preserved animal bones that tell us about diet and hunting practices. Central India, particularly the Vindhya and Satpura mountain ranges, contains an incredibly rich concentration of Mesolithic sites. Sarai Nahar Rai in Uttar Pradesh has provided crucial insights into Mesolithic burial practices and social organization. Meanwhile, the famous caves of Bhimbetka and Adamgarh in Madhya Pradesh continue to yield evidence from this period, adding to their already impressive Paleolithic record. The warming climate brought significant changes in how Mesolithic people organized their lives and obtained food. There was a notable shift in hunting strategies, moving from pursuing large game animals to focusing on smaller species, along with dramatically increased emphasis on fishing and bird hunting. This change required different hunting strategies and tools, which explains the development of smaller, more specialized microliths. The Mesolithic diet became remarkably diverse during this period. Archaeological sites show evidence of people consuming cattle, sheep, goats, buffalo, pigs, various deer species, fish, birds, and even small animals like hares and tortoises. Plant foods remained critically important to survival, though they are much harder for archaeologists to detect and study. Perhaps most significantly, we see evidence of important social changes during the Mesolithic period. The rock art from this time is particularly revealing about social life. At Bhimbetka, Mesolithic paintings show not just hunting scenes, but also complex social activities including childbirth, child rearing, group ceremonies, and even burial rituals. Now we arrive at one of the most important chapters in human history, the Neolithic Revolution. This wasn't a sudden, dramatic change that happened overnight, but rather a gradual transformation that fundamentally altered how humans lived, worked, and organized their societies in ways that still influence us today. The term Neolithic was originally coined by Sir John Lubbock in 1865, initially meaning simply New Stone Age, because of the characteristic polished stone tools found at these sites. However, we now understand that this period represents something far more profound than just new tool technology. It marks the birth of food production and the foundations of civilized life. The Neolithic Revolution involved several interconnected changes that transformed human society. Agriculture became central to survival as people learned to cultivate cereals like wheat, barley, and rice instead of simply gathering wild grains. Simultaneously, animal domestication developed as humans learned to control and breed cattle, sheep, goats, and other animals for reliable sources of meat, milk, and labor. This shift to food production enabled sedentary life for the first time in human history, with permanent village settlements replacing the mobile camps of earlier hunter-gatherers. New technologies emerged to support this lifestyle, including sophisticated ground stone tools, pottery for storage and cooking, and specialized food processing equipment like grinding stones and querns. Before we explore the Indian subcontinent's agricultural development, it's important to understand where this revolution began and how it spread across the globe. The Nile Valley in Egypt provides some remarkably early evidence of plant cultivation. Sites like Wadi Kubaniya show evidence of wheat and barley cultivation dating to around 12,500 BCE. What's particularly fascinating about these sites is that they are actually from the Upper Paleolithic period. Cultivation began even before the characteristic Neolithic tool traditions developed. Western Asia, encompassing modern Palestine, Syria, Turkey, and Iraq, witnessed the emergence of true farming villages around 9000 to 8000 BCE. The ancient settlement of Jericho demonstrates early agricultural development combined with impressive fortification systems, suggesting that surplus food production was already creating wealth worth defending. Çatalhöyük in Turkey represents perhaps the most spectacular example of a large agricultural village, with sophisticated multi-story houses, elaborate wall paintings, and clear evidence of complex social organization. The Indian subcontinent's Neolithic development presents a fascinating case study because it wasn't simply a matter of agricultural ideas spreading from elsewhere. Instead, archaeological evidence shows multiple independent centers of agricultural innovation developing across different regions, each adapted to local environments and resources. The site of Mehrgarh in Balochistan, now in Pakistan, plays a crucial role in understanding South Asian agricultural development. Dating from around 6000 BCE and continuing through to the mature Harappan period, Mehrgarh shows us a complete sequence of cultural and technological development over several millennia. What made Mehrgarh particularly significant was its role in crop development and animal domestication. Archaeological evidence shows the cultivation of 2 distinct varieties of barley and 3 different varieties of wheat, suggesting sophisticated understanding of plant breeding and agricultural techniques. Perhaps even more importantly, the site provides evidence for the local domestication of cattle, sheep, and goats, rather than simply adopting already domesticated animals from other regions. The settlement itself shows impressive planning and organization, with rectangular mud brick houses featuring specialized storage compartments for grain and other materials. The toolkit found at Mehrgarh includes polished stone axes, sophisticated grinding stones for processing grain, and specialized microliths adapted for agricultural tasks rather than hunting. The Kashmir Valley presents us with a unique Neolithic culture that developed under quite different environmental conditions. The sites of Burzahom and Gufkral, dating from 2500 to 1500 BCE, show fascinating adaptations to the mountain environment of Kashmir. One of the most distinctive features of Kashmir Neolithic culture was the construction of pit dwellings, partially underground houses with floors covered in red ochre. These structures were clearly adapted to the harsh Himalayan winters, providing better insulation than surface buildings. The subsistence pattern at these sites shows a gradual transition from hunting wild animals to domesticating cattle, sheep, and goats. What makes this particularly interesting is the evidence for dog burials alongside human burials, demonstrating the special relationship between humans and their earliest animal companions that continues to this day. Archaeological evidence also suggests cultural connections extending far beyond the immediate region, with similarities to both Chinese Neolithic cultures and pre-Harappan traditions, indicating that Kashmir was part of extensive trade and cultural networks. The Belan Valley in Uttar Pradesh provides crucial evidence for one of humanity's most important agricultural innovations, rice cultivation. This development would eventually transform food systems across much of Asia and beyond. The key sites in this region, Chopani Mando, Koldi Hawa, and Mehrgarh, show the gradual transition from gathering wild rice to cultivating domestic varieties. While the exact dating remains debated among scholars, some evidence suggests rice cultivation may have begun here as early as 6000 BCE. Beyond rice cultivation, the Belan Valley sites have yielded some of the world's earliest pottery, dating to the 9th to 8th millennium BCE. This early pottery tradition shows that people were developing sophisticated food storage and cooking technologies alongside agricultural development. The sites also provide evidence for the transition from mobile to sedentary life, with permanent settlements, cattle domestication, and even evidence of cattle pens showing systematic livestock management. The sites of Chirand, Senuar, and Chechar in Bihar, dating from 2000 to 1600 BCE, show us well-developed agricultural communities with sophisticated farming systems. These settlements demonstrate the cultivation of rice, barley, wheat, various lentils, and different types of millets, showing remarkable agricultural diversity. The variety of crops and the evidence for food storage and processing suggest these communities had achieved reliable food security through agricultural innovation. The Neolithic cultures of the Assam Hills present evidence of cultural connections extending across Asia. Sites in this region show distinctive shouldered celts and cord-impressed pottery that bears striking similarities to Chinese and Southeast Asian Neolithic traditions, suggesting ancient cultural connections and possibly population movements across the vast Asian continent. South Indian Neolithic culture, spanning from 2600 to 1000 BCE, developed in the challenging environment of the dry Deccan Plateau and shows unique characteristics adapted to this landscape. The cultivation of ragi or finger millet became a crucial crop in this region. This hardy grain was possibly introduced from East Africa but became thoroughly adapted to local conditions through careful breeding and selection. In addition to ragi, South Indian Neolithic communities grew wheat, horse gram, and various types of moong, showing agricultural diversity adapted to the semi-arid environment. Archaeological evidence suggests extensive cattle keeping, with the famous ash mounds found near many sites, possibly representing the remains of ancient cattle pens where accumulated dung was periodically burned. The development pattern in South India shows three distinct phases, demonstrating the gradual intensification of agriculture and the increasing importance of settled life over hunting and gathering strategies. The shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture and animal domestication represented far more than just a change in how people obtain food. One of the most profound changes was the transformation from flexible social bands to stable family units. Hunter-gatherer groups had been characterized by their fluid nature. People could easily join or leave groups based on circumstances, relationships, or resource availability. Farming communities, in contrast, developed much more stable family units that were tied to specific plots of land and accumulated property like houses, stored grain, and livestock. This new stability enabled specialization in ways that had been impossible for mobile hunter-gatherers. With reliable food supplies ensured through agriculture, some community members could dedicate their time to activities other than direct food procurement. This led to the development of specialized potters, tool makers, and livestock managers, laying the foundation for the complex division of labor that characterizes civilized societies. The shift to agriculture also enabled dramatic population growth. Agricultural communities could support much larger populations in smaller geographical areas compared to hunter-gatherer societies. This demographic change led to the development of the first true villages and eventually set the stage for the emergence of cities and complex civilizations. Thank you for joining me on this adventure through humanity's deep past. Until next time, keep exploring the past to understand the present. And remember that every artifact tells a story about the remarkable journey of human civilization.